Hello, my name is D'Angelo Mahalo, and I am a graduate student getting my master's in social work through Tuskegee University. It is an online clinical program that offers me great opportunity to learn in my own space, but also work virtually with my instructors to get a more deeper knowledge on important topics of the class. So today I will be answering a few questions from different topics that are covered in my learning and how they relate to social work practice. This video will cover information from my generalist class from my lesson book Essentials of Social Work Practice. Okay, well, let's get started. So the first section is Module 3, Chapter 3. And it's entitled Engagement Process and Building Therapeutic Relationships. So this comes from question number 2 in our packet. How can social workers balance the needs of their clients while maintaining their own self-care? Can you provide an example of how a lack of self-care might affect the therapeutic relationship? So there's a great importance for social workers to engage in self-care. When working with clients and balancing a healthy workload, social workers can achieve this by setting healthy boundaries, seeking support from colleagues and supervisors. It is also beneficial to practice mindfulness, engaging in regular self-care activities like exercise and relaxation, and prioritizing our own physical and mental health to prevent burnout while still providing empathetic support to clients. Having a lack of self-care can negatively impact the therapeutic relationship by causing the provider to become emotionally drained, less present with clients, more reactive to the client's issues, struggle to maintain healthy boundaries, experience burnout, and ultimately provide less effective therapy due to impaired judgment and reduced empathy and potentially hindering the client's progress. Some examples would be a therapist is struggling with self-care. We can find it difficult to maintain professional boundaries, potentially leading to over involvement with a patient's personal life or taking on too much responsibility for their well-being. Another example would be countertransference. This is when a therapist projects their own experiences and emotions on a client. This is due to an exasperation of poor self-care, leading to unhelpful responses or bias in therapy. So the next section will be Module 4, in Chapter 4, entitled Conducting Thorough Assessment. And this is coming from question number 1. What are some key domains that must be considered when conducting a thorough assessment of a client's situation? How can a generalist social worker incorporate both theory and practical knowledge into this process? So when conducting a thorough client assessment, key domains to consider include physical health, mental health, social and relational aspects, educational or vocational status, legal and financial situations, cultural background, family dynamics, support network, environmental factors, and presenting concerns or issues. Essentially, taking a holistic biopsychological, psychosocial approach to understand the client's overall well-being and needs across various life areas. A generalist social worker can incorporate both theory and practical knowledge by using theoretical frameworks to understand client situations during assessment. When applying practical interventions and strategies based on the specific client needs, while remaining flexible to adapt their approach depending on the unique circumstances. essentially drawing on a broad theoretical understanding to guide their practice while tailoring interventions to each individual's client situation based on their lived experiences and context. Now, a generalist social worker should have a comprehensive knowledge of various social work theories like system theory, ecological perspective, strengths-based approach, cognitive behavior theory, and so on, which can help them analyze complex client situations from different angles. Some examples of this would include if a social worker is working with a family experiencing housing instability, they might have systems theories to analyze how factors like unemployment, lack of affordable housing, and neighborhood dynamics are interconnected and contribute to the problem, then develop interventions that address these multiple levels. Another example would be if a social worker is working with um, with a child exhibiting behavioral issues, they may they might use social learning theory to identify potential role models or environmental factors influencing the behavior, and development interventions focus on positive reinforcement and modeling. The next question would be from question number 3 in the same chapter. What role does cultural competence play in the assessment process? And how might a social worker adapt their assessment approach when working with diverse clients? So cultural competencies in the assessment process means actively considering and respecting an individual's cultural background, beliefs, and values when evaluating their needs. This means ensuring that assessments are accurate and relevant by tailoring the approach to clients' unique cultural context. Rather than relying on one size fits all method, this includes using culturally appropriate language, considering social norms, and identifying potential cultural biases in assessment tools to provide a more comprehensive understanding of the individual being assessed. A social worker can adapt their assessment approach when working with diverse clients by actively acknowledging and understanding cultural differences, using culturally sensitive language, asking open-ended questions to explore unique experiences, being mindful of their own biases, and utilizing interpreters when necessary to ensure effective communication. Essentially, tailoring their assessment process to respect and consider each client's individual cultural context and background. An example would be to be sensitive to cultural interpretations of mental health and consider alternative ways to discuss symptoms based on the client's cultural background, or when considering a family structure. Instead of assuming a traditional nuclear family, ask about the client's support network and who they consider their primary decision makers to respect diverse family dynamics. The next questions comes from Module 5, Section A, Chapter 6, Problem Solving Approach to Interventions. And this is question number 1. What is the problem-solving approach in social work, and how can it be applied to address multiple challenges presented by a client? In social work, the problem-solving approach is a systematic method where a social worker collaborates with a client to identify, analyze, and develop solutions to specific problems in their life, focusing on clearly defining issues, creating an action plan, and evaluating its effectiveness. When dealing with multiple challenges, a social worker can prioritize the most pressing issue, address them one at a time using the problem-solving process, and leverage the client's strength to tackle complex situations. An example of this would be a single parent struggling with unemployment, housing instability, and childcare needs. It's, it's important to identify these key issues, develop a plan, implement a plan, and evaluate the process. So when identifying key issues, you want to prioritize addressing the housing instability as it directly impacts the family's stability. When developing the plan, you want to work with the client to explore potential housing assistance programs, create a budget, and develop strategies to improve job search efforts. When implementing the plan, you want to assist the client in applying for housing assistance, connect them with job training resources, and provide support with childcare options while actively seeking employment. And then evaluating the process, you want to regularly monitor the client's progress towards housing stability and adjust the plan as needed, while also addressing other challenges like childcare and employment gradually. And the last question comes from Module 5, also in Section B, Chapter 7, Social Work Practice with Groups. Question number 2. How can a social worker facilitate a group session while encouraging that all members feel heard and valued, particularly in a group with diverse backgrounds or experiences? To facilitate a group session where all members with diverse backgrounds feel heard and valued, a social worker can create a safe and welcoming environment, actively listen to each participant, use inclusive language, encourage open sharing, implement structured participation techniques, acknowledge and validate different perspectives, and be mindful of power dynamics. Examples include using check-in questions, rotating speaking opportunities, and incorporating cultural sensitivity into discussions. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope to see you guys again soon.